Basics with Babish and my website, basicswithbabish.com, are brought to you by Squarespace. Head there now to check out all of the recipes from the show, kitchen equipment lists, and more. Get 10% off your first Squarespace order with offer code Babish, whether you need a domain, website, or online store. Make your next move with Squarespace. Alright, let's start off with breakfast, or at least the food most closely resembling breakfast. Thanksgiving leftover waffles. This is little more than a fun way to reheat your Thanksgiving leftovers. But when I say fun, I mean it. Really, it's as simple as lubing up your waffle iron with plenty of nonstick spray and stuffing it with stuffing until golden and crisp. For stuff like leftover mashed potatoes, you might want to add some binders. I find that 1 egg and about 3 ounces of grated cheddar cheese is all you need to turn about 2 cups of leftover mashed potato into a cheesy, crispy cheddar potato waffle. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the best sentences I've ever said. Same procedure, spray it up, squish it down, and voila. Something way better than any leftover mashed potatoes you've ever eaten. Sweet potatoes can get a little loose and goopy, so they need a little extra help. In addition to the single egg, this 2 cups of sweet potatoes receives 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. This is going to help the waffle bind together and not become a mushy, disappointing mass when you retrieve it from your iron. Make sure you don't overfill your waffle maker, squash it down, and toast it up. And look at that, it's a sweet potato casserole waffle. There are a few ways I could better imagine you could honor your sweet potatoes memory. But then, the pièce de résistance, the Thanksgiving leftover triple waffle tall stack, garnished with cranberry sauce and turkey and drizzled with gravy. Folks, I am no lover of Instagram bait food gimmicks, but I felt the need to share this with you because it genuinely rocks. If you've got kids, imagine their gaze of wonder this Sunday morning when you greet them with this mountain of Thanksgiving favorites. I do not have kids myself, but the childlike squeals of my camera crew were evidence enough that this is a good idea. Next up, we move on to lunch, where I think the leftover Thanksgiving sandwich is ripe for innovation. First up, we're going to pull the skin off our leftover turkey breast and set it aside because we have big plans for it. Then we're going to slice up the turkey breast as thin as we possibly can, and then we're taking the skin over to the stovetop where we're going to fry it up in a bit of vegetable oil. This can be a bit of a messy, sputtery process, and it might not cook very evenly, but just press it down and give it a flip and maybe weigh it down with a heavy saucepan, ensuring that every nook and cranny has become golden, brown, and crisp. Then we're setting these guys aside to drain on paper towels while we prepare the other elements of our sandwich. Maybe the most important of which is the bread, which we are going to toast up in butter. Only on one side though. You will find out why shortly. First up, we're transporting our bread over to the assembly surface, but we're not just plopping it down on the countertop. No. For you see, this is the leading cause of toast sweat. So we're going to make sure that we assemble our sandwich on a wire rack. Then I have an extremely indecent proposal for you. I want you to assemble this sandwich with the bread inside out. That's right, the beautiful golden crispy side of the bread facing inward. We'll touch on that later because now it's time to employ one of the most useful tips I've ever picked up making this show, the infamous moist maker, or central slice of bread soaked in gravy. I'm going untoasted bread in hot gravy for superior gravy absorption, and while that soaks, I'm going to start assembling the sandwich. First up, a generous layer of our thinly sliced turkey, followed by a thin but generous patty of leftover stuffing. Atop that goes a thin smear of cranberry sauce, our sufficiently soaked moist maker, another layer of turkey, another layer of stuffing, another layer of cranberry sauce, and then it's time for yet another one of our secret weapons, our salty, crispy fried turkey skin. Then I'm just going to smear a little sweet potato casserole on the top slice of bread, top up, and marvel at what I have created. Now, I am opposed to sandwiches that you can't fit in your mouth, so I'm going to give this thing a little squish, taking care not to destroy our moist maker, and then I'm going to skewer it and slice it into twain. And that, my friends, is how you make a Thanksgiving leftovers sandwich. The real innovation here, however, lies in the inside-out application of the toasted bread. It protects the bread from becoming mooshed by condiments, protects the roof of your mouth from getting torn up by toast, and gives the whole sandwich an unexpected potato chip-like crunch. I think it's going to revolutionize the world of sandwiches as we know it, and I'm very proud to announce here today that I have not patented it, and it is open source for your use and innovation. Enjoy. Next and last, we move on to dinner, and maybe my favorite application of Thanksgiving leftovers because it can be enjoyed year-round. I speak, of course, about the freezable Thanksgiving pot pie. You'll notice that in a large bowl, I am combining some shredded leftover turkey breasts, some roast potatoes chopped up into bite-sized pieces, and some assorted vegetables, but you can, of course, mix and match based on what you have left over from the giving of thanks. Next up, I have about 3 cups of gravy that I've thinned with probably a half cup of chicken stock, into which I'm depositing our leftover solids and mixing to combine, and our pot pie filling is finished as easy as that. Next up, I have some store-bought puff pastry that I'm going to defrost, lightly flour, and roll out, just till it's about 1.5 times its original size and no creases or folds remain. Then, from this sheet of puff pastry, we're going to cut rounds. We need to cut them about half an inch wider than the diameter of their intended container, so find something in your kitchen that fits the bill and get to slicing. Then once you've got a few puff pastry rounds for pot pies large and small alike, it's time to simply assemble and then either bake or freeze. That's the beauty of this recipe, it can be enjoyed either now or later. I personally like to use small ramekins like this one, or big ramekins like this one, filled to about a half an inch shy of full to account for bubblage, topped with our rounds of puff pastry that we're going to gently pat down around the edges to seal. And if you don't want to eat them now, you can give them the old home freezer preparation treatment, wrapping twice in plastic wrap and once in foil, for any time you want to experience Thanksgiving flavors over the next 6 months. Meanwhile, our big boys are getting the same treatment, but with 2 layers of puff pastry. After all, there's nothing sadder in the world than a pot pie that's all pot and no pie. Lastly, whenever you're ready to finally eat these guys, we're going to brush them down with 1 beaten egg. This will give our puff pastry a nice glossy sheen, and then we're going to sprinkle them liberally with some flaky sea salt. Cut a few vents with a paring knife for good luck, and then into a 375°F oven they go for anywhere from 40 minutes to 1 hour, especially if they're frozen. Pull them out once they're nicely golden brown and bubbling over the edges, and there you have it, the perfect way to enjoy Thanksgiving flavors year-round. Please excuse my excited hands in 3, 2, 1. Ugh. But I am excited because let's face it, after day 3 or 4 of Thanksgiving leftovers, you're starting to get sick of this stuff, so it's great to be able to either zhuzh it up or save it for another day. You might notice that I'm taking a long time to eat this bite here, and that's because it's extraordinarily hot. Always exercise caution with pot pies. And since this episode comes out on Thanksgiving Day, I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday, surrounded by amazing food, people you love, and of course the people you have to love because it's Thanksgiving and their family, and just have another glass of wine. This episode and many others have been sponsored by Squarespace because they've been an amazing partner in both bringing this show and my websites to life. They've got a really intuitive, easy to use platform that made it super easy for someone like me who's never done web design, ever. They have templates, they do domains, they have really good customer service. It's basically a one-stop shop for building a really slick website. If you want to try it for yourself, you can start your free trial today at squarespace.com and enter in offer code BABISH to get 10% off your first purchase.